Hello, Nida. Am I audible? So
Yes.
half time is almost over. Okay. So I hope you are keeping the record of the time. Okay. So you have another 15, 18 minutes. Okay. Please also ask if you have any doubt in any question, like what is the question asking. If you have difficulty understanding any question, you can ask. Okay. Nida, am I audible to you?
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, I think I just logged out. The meeting kind of closed for me. Can you see the screen again that I'm sharing? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Sorry for that. Continue. Okay. Will you wind up in 10 minutes? Can we finish in 5 to 10 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, good. Are you done, Nida?
Yes, 2 minutes.
Yes, yes. When you are done with the paper, click pictures and can you convert it into a PDF on your mobile and before sending on the group? Okay. Let me know when you're done. Hello, Nida, I'm audible to you?
Yes.
Yes, good that you're back. Let me start the video as well. So you have just texted me the test paper, right? Picture. You forgot to write your name or the badge. Can you just, okay, I'm writing your name and just replying to you, okay? For record. From next time onwards, you have to also write your name and badge. Is it fine?
Yes.
Okay. Good. So it's done. So let's quickly finish with discussing. If you have any doubt, if you had any problem with the questions, was there any problem with the questions?
I had problem with 6th and 10th question.
Okay. Okay. Let's discuss this. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So the first question asks, state the role of epididymis. We'll go from first to the last. Okay. State the role of epididymis in male fertility. So you know already. Epididymis is the structure just above the testes, which is responsible for functional maturity of the sperm, correct? Remember, sperms get motility and viability. I hope I'm audible clearly, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So sperms get motility and viability in the epididymis, remember? So that is the site of functional maturity of sperms. Now, second, what is the reason for the absence of menstrual cycle during pregnancy? So what happens during pregnancy? During the pregnancy, the levels of estrogen and progesterone remains high because both placenta and corpus luteum produces these hormones, correct? As a result of which, the endometrium is always intact. It never degenerates. So there is absence of menstrual cycle. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yes, good. Third is name the substance present in the sperm acrosome and what is its function. So if you have written the name of the substance, which is hyaluronidase, that's great. Even if you have written lysins or hydrolytic enzymes, I'll give you marks. So these are that is the substance in the acrosome. And the function is to degrade the outer layers of the ovum, which is the like the corona radiata and the zona pellucida, right? And then to penetrate the ovum. Okay, Nida, clear?
Yes.
Yes. Coming to question 4, how is a primary oocyte different from a secondary oocyte? So you know that primary oocyte is diploid, it's 2n, right? Because that undergoes meiosis for the first time to become a secondary oocyte, just like primary spermatocytes and secondary spermatocytes, correct? So that is the first difference. The second difference is primary oocyte is covered in primary and secondary follicle, whereas secondary oocyte is covered with Graafian follicle. And secondary oocyte is released during ovulation, whereas primary oocyte stays in the ovary. It is present in the ovary only. It is immature. Is it clear, the differences between the two? The major is that one is haploid and one is diploid. Great. Now, question 5th, what are the different stages of the follicular phase in the ovary and of the menstrual cycle in the uterus? So follicular phase, in the ovary, there are 3 phases, remember? First is the follicular, ovulatory, and then the luteal, the 3 phases, pre-ovulatory, ovulatory, and then post-ovulatory. Yes, you just had to mention the names and that would work. And in the menstrual cycle, it is called the menstrual phase, then the proliferative phase, and the last one is called the secretory phase, right? So you have to tell for both the ovary and the uterus what are the names, different stages or different phases. Is it clear? Is it clear, Nida?
Yes.
Yes. So you had some issues with question number 6, you said? It says, explain in detail the various developmental stages of the zygote until implantation. So remember I told you about implantation. Yes. So at which stage does the embryo implants? So it's implanted at the blastocyst stage, right? When the trophoblast layer is there and the blastocele is there inside, and there are inner cell mass, right? So from you just had to make that diagram where from one single cell zygote you made two cells which are smaller, half of the one cell, then four cells. So it keeps getting smaller because it's called reductional division or cleavage. Remember, in cleavage there is no interphase or resting phase. So the cells do not grow in size. That after some time it forms the 8 cell stage, then 16 cell stage, which is known as the morula. And then finally it forms blastula or blastocyst, where you had to show the trophoblast layer, the cavity, and the inner cell mass. So those are the, even if you have not used like specific names, but you have just made the diagram, you will get marks. That will work. So finally you have to tell that at this stage it implants. It's called it calls blastocyst implantation in humans. Is question 6 clear now? Nida? Yeah. Okay. Coming to question 7, name the different types of cell present in testes. So you majorly had to talk about the Sertoli cells, the Leydig cells, and the spermatogonial cells. So spermatogonial cells give rise to the sperm later on. So they go under the process of spermatogenesis. And Leydig cells are out of the seminiferous tubule. They produce testosterone. And Sertoli cells are the nurse cell to the spermatogonial and the developing spermatocytes. So these are the three different types of cells basically about which you had to talk. So their functions, just that, okay, in one line. Name of the cell, one line function, that will do. You will get marks. Now question 8 was explain spermatogenesis with the help of the flow chart. So remember we just did a flow chart starting from primordial germ cell to spermatogonia, then primary spermatocytes, secondary spermatocytes, spermatids. Remember that thing, that diagram, that flow chart? So you have to just make that one, okay? That is self-explanatory. So even if you just made the flow chart, you will get marks. Now describe the structure of a sperm with a diagram. So I hope this you did, right? You had to mention the acrosome, which is the head on the top of the head. In the head, you had to mention the nucleus, the nucleus, and the neck. In neck, you had to mention the mitochondria and then the tail structure. That's all. And what is the energy source of sperm cells, Neda? What do sperm cells utilize to make energy?
Mitochondria.
No, mitochondria makes energy in all the cells, but it is asking the energy source. What do they utilize? What do they take inside the cell, which they break down to make? Remember, fructose is the energy source. They do not rely on glucose. Sperms are the only cells in the body that rely on fructose. Yes? Yes or no?
Yes.
We discussed this, yeah? Okay. The last question is explain in brief the hormonal regulation of the male reproductive system. So you just had to mention the name of the structure and the hormones. And you could do this with the help of the flow chart that we also did in the class, where I showed you from hypothalamus, GnRH is released, which goes and acts on pituitary to give rise to LH and FSH, and then what it does on the testes. That's all. So is the question paper clear to you?
Yes.
Again, have a look at the question paper. If you can take a screenshot, just take this screenshot right now. Go through the question paper again and try to figure out if you have not written some answers clearly or correctly, how can you do that? Okay. Okay. Nida? Very well. So let me, do you have any doubts regarding what we did in the last class?
was absent.
Oh, you were absent. So I'll give you a recap of the last class. So this class will be kind of a backup class plus whatever we'll do after that. So in the last class, when I think you joined, did you join last to last class where we talked about the
No.
birth control devices?
No.
So I started with chapter 4. Did you join chapter 4 at all?
No.
So last class that you joined was of chapter 3, right? Human reproduction. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so let me quickly give you a recap of chapter 4. You can also get the video link. Please go through it and make your own notes, but I'm just quickly giving you this recap, okay? So reproductive health, you know, what is reproductive health? It is defined as, and keep noting while you are in the class also. So reproductive health, now we are talking about humans and all the disease disorders and what can go wrong with respect to reproductive system. So that's called reproductive health in humans. So we studied about reproduction starting from lower organisms in chapter 1, asexual mode and all other modes like vegetative propagation, going to plants in chapter 2, where we studied the sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Then in chapter 3, we studied about humans, and chapter 4 is about the reproductive health in humans. So it is like an extension of chapter 3 and the structures that you have studied only, okay? So reproductive health is defined as the overall well-being of a human from the perspective of reproduction. It includes physical, mental, emotional, and social well-being of a human in order to be reproductively fit, okay? Now you know that why physical? Because the organs that are associated, the glands, the organs, and other structures that are associated with reproductive system, they have to be healthy, right, to work. Correct? If there is any disorder in the organs, the reproductive health of the person will go down. Is it clear, Nida?
Yes.
Mental, because if there is any mental abnormality or mental imbalance, then also the person will not be able to behave properly in terms of reproduction and reproductive system. So mental health also affects the reproductive health. Emotional and social. Now emotional comes because reproductive system, as you already know, and the question, I also asked a question in the end exam, that how it is regulated. So reproductive system is regulated by hormones, right? Yes or no? Yes. And hormones, whenever their level goes up and down in the body, they bring about with some emotional changes, right? Females feel these emotional and behavioral changes when they are high on some hormones during menstrual cycle or pregnancy, correct? So emotional well-being is equally important, and so the female should not be stressed or the male should not be stressed or depressed, because that also affects the reproductive health. And then the social well-being, because humans are social organisms and we live in a society setup. So there are many misconceptions or taboos with reproductive health associated with reproductive health. And for example, you know that for the birth of a specific sex of a child, it is always females who are blamed, right? Because people are not aware that females are homogametic in humans and they do not decide the gender of the baby. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. So they are also always blamed, but that should not be the case. And also in the case of sexually transmitted diseases, the patients are not treated properly with respect or like the way they should be by the society. They are looked down. Society looks down upon them, and that should not be done. Okay. Now, so in order to be reproductively fit, all these 4 parameters should be healthy, okay, for any given individual. Then we talked about the birth rate and the death rate. You know what is a birth rate? Did you note this down? So while I'm explaining, please keep noting things, okay? Nida? Then birth rate. Now, what is birth rate? Rate is anything over time, right? So birth rate is also the number of live births in a given time, like it can be per year for any region or any country. So normally when we talk about the birth rate, we talk about the birth rate in per year in any given region or country. Okay. Now birth rate has increased over time. And can you think of reasons why it has increased over time? Why there are more births nowadays?
Because the population is increasing.
Sorry, come again and be a little louder, please.
Because the population is increasing.
Yes, so population is increasing because of increased birth rate. But I am asking, why do you think birth rate is increasing? Which means, why are more babies being born and babies are not dying? Earlier, babies used to die due to early infections or things like that, right? Even while giving birth to the baby, mothers also used to die in earlier times. There were complications of delivery. But nowadays, there are better medical assistance, right? And improved health facilities, right? So because of better medical assistance and improved health facilities, vaccinations, and all these things that we do to the baby, there is a decrease in the maternal mortality rate, and there is also a decrease in the infant mortality rate. So the babies and the mothers are more healthier now. That's why the death associated very early is not there. It has decreased. So when that will decrease, the birth rate will increase. Is it clear to you? Yeah. Is it clear? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. So after that, we also studied the death rate and population explosion. So if birth rate keeps on increasing, the population of any given region will will become double or triple in a very short amount of time, like in just 1 or 2 generation time. And that is known as population explosion. Okay. And death rate is again just like birth rate. It is the number of individuals dying in a region due to natural or accidental causes in any country. Now, death rate has decreased over time. Just like birth rate has increased, death rate has decreased because one reason is we have better health infrastructure and facilities and scientific. We have better drugs and medicines to treat a patient. So people do not die very easily due to infections or anything. Even in emergency conditions, we are able to make the patient survive, right? And if there is a disease, we are able to cure it either medicinally or surgically and prolong the life of the patient, right? So the death rate has gone down. Now, death rate low and birth rate high together makes the population grow faster. Yes or no? You understand, Nida?
Yes.
Yes. Now that's why to control the population, to keep the population in check, there has to be family planning. And that's why there's a family planning commission in India. Okay. And that family planning can be done through birth control methods, which are also known as contraception or contraceptive methods. It is anti to the conception. So conception is where the female conceives the pregnancy, and contraception is the preventive measures or devices which do not allow pregnancy. Is it clear? Now, talking about contraceptions, contraceptions can be of 2 types broadly. First type is known as the temporary method, okay? And the second is permanent method. Now, talking about permanent first, as the name suggests, it is permanent. So there is no reversal, it's irreversible, and it is surgical methods, okay? That's why it is irreversible. And after permanent method, applying permanent method of contraception, the individuals, they become sterile, like they cannot reproduce after that. So it has to be done very carefully. And there are 2 things that we can do. For males, it is called vasectomy. So this is for males, where the vas deferens in cut and tied. So if you cut and tie the vas deferens, what is vas deferens? What does this carry? Remember from last chapter, what does vas deferens carry? So it carries sperms, right? Nida? So if you cut and tie the vas deferens, you do not allow basically the sperms to come into the semen, and hence if there is no sperm, the male can never fertilize the female ovum. So there will be no pregnancy. The second thing can be done with females, where similarly, just like vas deferens, fallopian tube can be cut and tied, the oviduct, so that there is no ovum. So even if sperm reaches the fallopian tube, it is cut and tied at the isthmus region. So there will be no ovum coming for fertilization. Is it clear? Nida?
Yes.
Yes. Now, which one do you think is more easy to do? Vasectomy or tubectomy? Think about where are these organs for males and females. So which one do you think is easier?
Vasectomy.
Vasectomy, right? You are correct. Why is vasectomy easier? Because the sperm and the vas deferens is present in a scrotum outside the abdominal cavity. So you just have to make a small incision in the scrotum and it can be done. Whereas to do tubectomy, you have to cut through the body wall of the female, right? Yes, good. Now coming to temporary methods, include natural method is the first method that we are going to discuss. So natural method means when you do not use any device or any medicine or any drug. It is just depending on the timing of the menstrual cycle. So the first method is called safe period, or is also known as rhythm method, where we calculate what is the safest period to for sexual reproduction, where there is very low or less chances of fertilization. So that is after the 18th day, because after the 18th day the ovum will not be viable for fertilization. Periodic abstinence is the second method, where during the riskiest phase, so the day 10 to day 18, it is very risky, right? Because why it is risky? Because on day 14 there is ovulation that happens, correct, Nida?
Yes.
So 4 days before ovulation and 4 days after ovulation, it is very risky period. So within that, periodic abstinence is where the males avoid sexual intercourse with the females. So that is one way to prevent pregnancy. The third is withdrawal method, which is also known as coitus interruptus. In this withdrawal method, during the sexual intercourse, just before the ejaculation, the male has to withdraw or to just take out the penis from the female tract. Now that will not completely ensure the lack of fertilization, but there are less chances. And the fourth is lactational amenorrhea. Now this is where this happens after birth. So you know that after birth, females produce milk from the mammary gland, the last thing that we studied in chapter 3, lactation, right? So heavy lactation starts after birth. Do you understand, Nida?
Yeah.
Because of heavy lactation that the female is undergoing, and she's already producing colostrum, which is very high, like it requires lots of energy. So females do not ovulate, and they do not have a menstrual cycle working in the initial 4 to 6 months. So in that period, when there is lactational amenorrhea, sexual reproduction is safe and chances of fertilization is less. But all these four methods, they have very high chances of failure. So first, they are not foolproof methods. They have very high chances of failure, but they have no side effect, because of course we are not using anything from outside, no drug, no medicine, no device. So it is just a chance event. It will work all the time. It's not ensured. It has a high chances of failure. And also this method do not prevent STDs. Do you understand?
Yes.
So please make this flowchart right now about contraception, permanent and temporary method, and let me know when you're done. Just note these things down. Or if you can take a screenshot and let me know. But just do it and let me know quickly. Take 2 minutes. Let me know, Nida, when you're done. Done? Okay, very good. So this was natural methods of contraception, and in the same temporary method only, the second method is, I should not use that one. Yes. So we are continuing with temporary method only, but in temporary method, the second class is artificial methods. So this was natural. Now this is artificial. In artificial, the first method is the barrier method. So if we have to artificially prevent fertilization, how will we do it? The first way is do not let the sperm and ovum meet, right? That is the most logical thing we can think of. So that's called barrier method. And the first barrier method is condoms and femidums. Now this is the only method which actually prevents STD. Just remember that condoms and femidums are the only method of birth control which comes under barrier method that prevents STDs. So they are a thin rubber or latex sheath which is used to cover the external genitalia. So condom is for the male and femidum is for the female. So it covers the genitalia and it does not allow, you can just add one more point here. It does not allow exchange of fluid, exchange of body fluids like semen. Is it clear? So that's why it prevents STDs. Is it clear, Nida?
Yes.
Apart from condoms and femidums, no other method, not even the other barrier methods prevent STDs. So other barrier methods are diaphragm, cervix cap, and vaults. They are also barrier methods. They are like a cap or a membrane, and they are only for females. Okay, they also come under barrier method, but they do not prevent STDs. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yes. Just so this you will find in NCERT, but just note down the important things and let me know if I can move forward. Shall I go forward?
Yes.
Okay. Then the next artificial method is Iods, which is known as intrauterine devices. And as the name suggests, they are placed inside the uterus, intrauterine, and they are only for the female system, which means. Now, Iods are placed in the uterus and they provide contraception. Now, there are, again, Iods cannot prevent STD. So this you have to remember. They also cannot prevent STD. And there are three types of Iods. The first one is non-medicated IOD, which means there is no drug, no medication in that IOD. It is just a physical thing that prevents fertilization. And the example is lips loop. It is also known as the S loop because it is S-shaped. Okay. It is like a scoop and it gets fixed in the space of the uterus and does not allow sperms to move forward. So that's called non-mediated, and lips loop is an example. Just remember the example, this one. Only this will be asked. Second is copper releasing IODs. Now, copper releasing IODs are mostly used and they are the most common ones. The examples are copper T, CUT, copper 7, CU7, and multi-load 375. These three are the examples. So you have to remember these examples. And what do copper ions do? Basically, the release of copper ions reduce the motility and viability of the sperms. Do you understand? So if the sperm is not motile and viable, then it will not be able to fertilize the ovum. It will not be able to reach there in time and will just die in the tract. Yes?
Yeah.
So that's how pregnancy is prevented. Now the third one is hormone releasing IODs. These are which secretes estrogen and progesterone or the combination of both. LNG20 and progestasert is an example. So majorly it secretes progesterone because progesterone holds the endometrium and does not allow pregnancy to happen, ovulation to happen. Or it can be progesterone estrogen combination as well. Now, how do hormone releasing IODs work? Because they release hormone, they delay or they stop ovulation. So if the levels of progesterone and estrogen are high, the endometrium will feel like it is in the secretory phase or in the pregnancy phase. So there will be no cycle of ovulation happening. Okay. And they also make the uterus and the cervix hostile to the sperm. So they are spermicidal in nature. Hormone releasing IODs are spermicidal. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yes. So quickly just note down the names for each A, B, and C, all the three types of IODs. Just write down their names and the important point.
Done.
Done? Okay, very good. Now the next one is oral contraceptive pills. The another artificial method, but this is not barrier, not IOD, this is oral pills. So these are like tablets which can be taken by the female. Now they are of two types. One is the regular mode, where after the bleeding phase, after the first 6 days, from the 7th day onward, for next 21 days, a pill has to be taken by the female. Okay, and that pill has a combination of progesterone and estrogen. Okay, so she keeps taking the pill, and in that month she will not be able to conceive. So there will be no pregnancy. So that is one way to do contraception. Second way is Saheli. Saheli is a specialized pill. It's called once a week pill. So instead of taking it for 21 days constantly, regularly, now it can be taken just once in a week. So on one same day, the female decides a day, and then on that day, every week she has to take one pill. So it is more advanced version of the regular mode. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yes. And oral contraceptive pills are they can be used as emergency contraceptive. So they're the only contraceptives that can in a combination can be used after, like before the 48 hours after the sexual intercourse. So if anyone had an unprotected sexual intercourse and now they are afraid that there might be a pregnancy, then these emergency pills can be taken. Now these emergency pills are spermicidal, so they basically kill all the sperms. Can you see that I have drawn an arrow here for spermicidal? So they also work like with killing the sperms. Is it clear? And it can also lead to destabilizing the endometrium. So as a side effect, there can be very heavy bleeding in that female. So it is not advised to go for this emergency contraceptive a lot of times in life. So better you either take it as a regular mode or as Saheli, or use a condom or femidom or other methods. Okay. So this is only when there is no other option. Okay. And after the sexual intercourse. Do you understand? That's why it's called emergency. Do you understand?
Yes.
Now the function, how it works is, because it is a combination of hormones, so that it also inhibits ovulation. It does not allow ovulation to happen. It also inhibits the secretion from oviducts. So it does not allow oviduct to secrete any chemical or signal for the sperm. It also makes the cervix hostile for sperm. So the sperms start getting killed in a very large number right in the cervix. So they never reach the fallopian tube. And it also makes the endometrium unable to allow implantation. Is it clear? So for oral contraceptive also, please note down the important points which you are seeing on the board. You have to go back and read these paragraphs from NCERT. Okay, Nida?
Yes.
Yes, please note down and tell me.
Done.
Done? Okay, very good. Now, the last thing that we discussed in contraceptions in the last class was implants and injections. So these are hormone releasing implants. Implants are basically, they are like small things that you can put under the skin. So you just have to make a cut and put this thing under the skin. It's surgically, and it is a very long acting method, very slow acting method. So it stays under the skin and keeps producing a combination of progesterone and estrogen in the blood. Okay, do you understand? It's same like the oral pill, but you do not have to take a pill every day, and it can be there for months and years in the body. And one example is levonorgestrel. That's all. So that's all you have to know about implants. So they're not very, very popular and they're not very widely used, but that can also be used. So implants or injections, where we inject these things under the skin. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is the last thing in birth control methods. Any doubt in birth control methods? Because this is a major chunk. You have to remember these names and how these methods work. What is that method? And if from this chapter question comes, chances are more than 50% times the question comes from birth control methods. So any doubt? Is it clear?
Yes.
Yes, very good. Now coming to in yesterday class, we did two more topics. One was sex determination. Now you know that sex can be determined in a baby, right, in the zygotic stage. You know, even before we studied in chapter 3 that by the end of first trimester, the female genitalia is formed, right? You can do ultrasound in the 4th month and you can get to know whether the baby is male and female. Yes, remember? Yes, but by the 4th month, it is already late. You cannot abort the child then, right? Yes, because MTP is not allowed after that, remember? So people started misusing this technique called amniocentesis. Amniocentesis is a technique where, uh, basically we take some fluid from the amniotic fluid, which is surrounding the baby. So when the embryo is inside the womb, you know that it is surrounded by a fluid, right? That fluid is called amniotic fluid. And from that amniotic fluid, if you take some fluid, then the chances are that there will be some loose cells present in that fluid that have detached from the embryo. Okay. Detached from developing embryo. You understand? And you just need to take those cells and look at the 23rd pair of the chromosome, which are called the sex chromosome, right? And we already know if it is a XX, it will be a female zygote. And if it is a XY, it will be a male zygote. Is it clear? So this is how human sex is determined genetically. And it can be also determined through amniocentesis. Okay. Now, amniocentesis is illegal. If it is for the purpose of sex determination, it is illegal. Okay. And it is illegal to prevent female feticide. You know what is female feticide? Am I audible and visible, Nida?
Yes.
Yes, I think you just dropped because of some network issues. Okay, so I was telling you about amniocentesis. So it is a method, you heard till here, right? That we can determine the sex of a zygote through the amniocentesis, where we do the chromosomal analysis, right? And we can look for either it is a XX chromosome or a XY chromosome, and get to know whether the baby will be a male or a female, right?
Yes.
So these cells, I was telling you that when you take the amniotic fluid, there are some free floating cells that got detached from the developing embryo and are present in that fluid, which can help us to screen for the gender. Now, if someone is doing amniocentesis, I'm so sorry. Yes, you can see the screen, right? Still? You can see the screen, Nida?
Yes.
Yes. So if amniocentesis is being done for the purpose of sex determination, it is illegal in India and many other countries to prevent female feticide. You know what is female feticide?
Yes.
Yes. It's when you it's killing of the female embryo in the womb. Okay. If it is after the birth, it is called female infanticide. So remember these two words. This is female infanticide is killing a girl child after birth. Okay. So remember that ban on amniocentesis helps in preventing female feticide. Okay. Not female infanticide. Are you clear? Yes. Okay. Now, the last thing that we will discuss is medical termination of pregnancy, which is called MTP. And so MTP is in normal terms, people use the word abortion of pregnancy, right? You are aborting the pregnancy, you are ending the pregnancy. And sometimes, in some cases, it is allowed. And so question comes, under what circumstances? Please write down this question about MTP. Did you write down about amniocentesis? Yes. Now write down about MTP the question, under what circumstances the MTP is allowed. So first, if there is any genetic disorder or chromosomal abnormality in the developing fetus. Okay. In that case, if you detect it early, the parents have the right, the choice to not go with the pregnancy, because they know that the baby will be deformed or not properly formed, or will be born with disorders and abnormalities. For example, Down syndrome. So all these disorders can be checked with the help of amniocentesis. In that case, MTP is allowed. If the continuation, second case, if the continuation of pregnancy is fatal or detrimental to the mother. If the pregnancy, if you continue the pregnancy and the mother's life is in danger, in that case, the pregnancy can be aborted. Okay. For that, there is a legal rule. Third, in case of forced pregnancy or criminal cases where there are sexual assaults against women, or in case of unplanned pregnancy in early stages, the female has the right to abort the pregnancy. So these are the legally allowed ways in which, legally allowed circumstances in which MTP can be done. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yes. Did you write these 3 points?
Yes.
Okay. Now, one thing that you have to know is that MTP is allowed only before 12 weeks. So after 12 weeks, the abortion is very risky for the mother. It becomes risky, like the mother's life or the mother's health is at risk if we do abortion after 12 weeks, which is the first trimester. 12 weeks means 3 months, right? Yes.